My mother stole $120,000 to give my half-sister an apartment, but when I confronted her betrayal, I sued her criminally, and the judge forced her to return every cent. Now she's financially destroyed, and my sister hates me. I'm 27 years old. I work in finance, and what my mother did to me a few months ago literally left me speechless. I mean, I never thought someone from my own family would be capable of something like this. We're talking about over $100,000 that disappeared from my savings account, like it was nothing. And when I say disappeared, I mean my mom, the person who supposedly gave me life, stole it to buy an apartment for my half-sister. Yeah, you read that right. But let me start from the beginning, because this story goes way back, and I need you to understand the full context. My parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. I don't remember much from that time. Honestly, just that suddenly Dad didn't live with us anymore and Mom cried a lot. At first, I stayed with her during the week, and weekends I went to Dad's. You know, the typical shared custody arrangement. Things were okay, I guess. Or at least they were manageable. But then Mom met Steven when I was like 9 years old, and that's when everything started to change. Steven was, I don't know how to describe him. Like the classic guy who tries too hard at first, but deep down doesn't care about you at all. He bought me things, asked me about school, did the whole I'm gonna be a good stepdad show, but I saw how he looked at me when Mom wasn't watching. Like I was a nuisance in his perfect new life. When I was 10 years old, Mom and Steven had Olivia, my half-sister. And that's when I basically stopped existing to Mom. It's not like it was dramatic, like she abandoned me overnight, but it was gradual, like when a plant slowly dies because nobody waters it. Suddenly, everything revolved around Olivia, the perfect baby, Steven's princess, the girl who finally gave them both what they wanted, a real family. I became the uncomfortable reminder of Mom's previous marriage, the other man's son, the one who didn't fit into their new, rosy life. Mom stopped going to my soccer games, forgot to make my favorite food, canceled our plans because Olivia needed something, and Steven stopped pretending he liked me. By the time I turned 12, I couldn't take it anymore. I told Mom I wanted to live with Dad full-time, and she, honestly, barely put up any resistance. I think she even felt relieved, like, oh, perfect, one less problem. Dad welcomed me with open arms, literally, and from that moment he was everything to me. He supported me in everything, helped me with homework, went to all my school activities, taught me to drive, helped me choose college, everything. Meanwhile, Mom, she basically disappeared from my life. She sent me text messages on my birthday, sometimes, and at Christmas she sent me a card with money. But that was it. She never invited me to her house, never asked how I was, and when I tried to contact her at first, she always had excuses. Olivia has ballet. Steven and I are going out. I'm busy with work. The usual. Eventually, I stopped trying. Why bother? It was obvious she had chosen her new family and I wasn't part of it. It hurt. Of course it hurt. But Dad helped me process it and move forward. I focused on school, graduated with honors, got an amazing job in finance right after college, and for the past 6 years I've basically killed myself, working and saving. My dream was to buy my own house, like something that was completely mine, where I could settle down and eventually start my own family. So I lived super frugally, shared an apartment with roommates, drove an old car, didn't go out partying, didn't take expensive vacations. Every extra dollar went straight into my savings account. And it worked. By the time I was 27, I had saved over $120,000. I was so proud of myself. Like this is the result of years of sacrifice and discipline. Then about 6 months ago, I get a call from Mom. Out of the blue. After years of practically no contact, she calls me and says she wants to see me, that she misses spending time with me, that she's been thinking a lot about our relationship and wants to fix things. I was like, what? Because honestly, I didn't even think about her anymore. But a part of me, I guess the part that was still that 2-year-old kid looking for his mom's approval, wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had finally realized what she'd lost. So I agreed to go to dinner at her house the following Friday. Big mistake. Seriously. The biggest mistake of my life. I arrived at her house and everyone was there. Mom, Stephen, who was now like 55 years old and looked just as unpleasant as ever, and Olivia, who was already 17 years old and in her senior year of high school. Dinner was weird from the start, like too friendly, too interested in my life, too, I don't know, fake. Mom wouldn't stop asking me about my work, how much I made, if I had savings, if I was thinking about buying a house soon. Stephen also threw in his uncomfortable questions, like, oh, you must be making good money in finance, right? Do you have investments? How do you manage your finances? Even Olivia, who barely knew me, was there asking if I had a lot of money saved, if it was hard to save living alone, stuff like that. I should have seen the warning signs. I should have run out of there. But I was so desperate to believe that Mom really wanted to reconnect that I ignored all the red flags. During dinner, I went to the bathroom and left my phone on the table because, it was my mom. You're supposed to be able to trust your mom. I was gone like 5 minutes max. And when I came back, everything seemed normal. We kept eating, talked a bit more, and I went home feeling like maybe things could get better between us. How naive I was. Seriously. 2 weeks later, I went on a work trip to Europe. I was going to be gone for like 10 days. It was an important project, and I was super focused on that, so I wasn't checking my bank account obsessively like I normally do. But one night, it was like the second week I was there. I decided to check my accounts to make sure everything was okay, and my heart literally stopped. My savings account, the account where I had over $120,000, was at zero. Zero. There wasn't a single cent left. I started hyperventilating, like I couldn't breathe. I thought I was having a panic attack right there in my hotel room. I immediately called the bank. It was like 2 in the morning their time, but they had 24/7 emergency service. The representative put me on hold while she reviewed my account, and when she came back, her voice sounded different, more serious. She told me there had been multiple transfers, all authorized from my mobile app, all made to the same recipient. I asked for the details and she sent them to me by email. When I opened that email, I felt like I was going to throw up. The transfers were in my mother's name. 5 different transfers of between $15,000 and $30,000 each, spread out over the last 10 days, all made from a device the bank had registered as previously authorized. That's when it hit me. The dinner, the bathroom, my phone on the table. Mom had taken my phone while I was in the bathroom, had accessed my banking app, which stupidly I had set up not to ask for a password every time, and had registered her own device as authorized. Then, over the following days, while I was on the other side of the world working and trusting that my money was safe, she had been draining my savings account, all my sacrifice of 6 years, all my future, everything. I came home the next day, canceled my meetings, took the first flight I could. I went straight to the bank in person and documented everything. Then, I went to Mom's house. I knocked on the door like crazy. I was shaking with rage, like I had never in my life felt so much fury. Stephen opened the door, and as soon as he saw me, he tried to close it, but I put my foot in the frame and pushed past, to him to get in. Mom was in the living room, watching TV like nothing. I yelled, "Where's my money?" And she didn't even flinch. She looked at me with that face like I already knew you were coming, and said with all the calm in the world, "I used it to buy Olivia an apartment. She starts college next year and needs a place to live. I thought you'd want to help your sister. You'd want to help. You'd want to help." I yelled at her that she hadn't asked, that she had stolen, that this was my money, my years of work, my future. And you know what she said? She said, I had a good job and could save again, that Olivia was young and needed help, that I should be grateful to have a family that needs me. Stephen got into the conversation and started yelling at me that I was selfish, that I had always been an ungrateful child, that Mom had raised me and I owed her this. I told him Mom hadn't raised me, Dad had raised me, that she had abandoned me 15 years ago. And that's when Olivia arrived. Probably. Heard the yelling. And started crying, saying she didn't know anything. That Mom had told her I had offered the money, that she didn't want problems. But it was too late for crocodile tears, The damage was done. I took out my phone and called the police right there. Mom went pale, and Stephen started saying, I couldn't do that, that she was my mother. That family doesn't do that to each other. all the classic manipulation. I told them she stopped being my family the day she robbed me. The police arrived in like 15 minutes, took my statement, reviewed the documents I had brought from the bank, and told Mom she would have to go to the station to answer questions. She started crying. Like, oh, now she was crying, saying I was destroying the family. How could I do this to her? The next few days were absolute chaos. I hired a lawyer, an excellent guy who specialized in financial fraud. We filed a formal complaint for theft and fraud, and the detective assigned to my case, Officer Martinez, was incredible. He investigated everything, tracked the money, and discovered that Mom hadn't only taken my money, but had passed it through Olivia's account to launder the transaction and make it look like Olivia had bought the apartment with her own money, or a legitimate gift. The bank froze Mom's account and started their own internal investigation. Stephen called me like 3 days later trying to make me feel guilty. He said I was being dramatic, that Mom had only borrowed the money, that we could fix this as a family without involving the police. I told him that stealing over $100,000 wasn't borrowing, it was a crime, and that if he kept harassing me, I was going to include him in the complaint as an accomplice. He hung up. The family exploded. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone started taking sides. Some supported me, said Mom had crossed the line and deserved consequences. Others, especially Diane, a cousin of Mom's, tried to mediate, like, let's all calm down and resolve this as a family. You don't really want to put your mother in jail, right? And I told them, she had no problem stealing my entire future. So yes, I want her to face the consequences of her actions. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me into letting this slide. About 2 months passed, and finally there was a court hearing. Mom arrived, dressed all in black, crying, acting like the perfect victim. Her lawyer, some cheap guy Stephen had clearly gotten, tried to argue it had been a family misunderstanding, that Mom had believed I had authorized the transfers. My lawyer destroyed that argument in seconds. He presented the bank records, showing that Mom's device had been registered without my knowledge, the records of transfers made while I was out of the country, my documents proving I had never authorized anything, and even presented text messages where Mom admitted she had taken the money for Olivia. The judge, an older man who looked like he had no patience for this nonsense, listened to everything and then asked Mom directly if she had taken the money without permission. She tried to talk around it, like, well, it's just that I thought as family. And the judge interrupted her and said, that's a yes or no. Did you take over $100,000 from your son's account without his explicit permission? Mom was quiet for a moment and then mumbled, yes. The judge shook his head and said he was going to review the case, but that this clearly constituted fraud and theft. 2 weeks later, the sentence came. Mom was found guilty of financial fraud and theft. The judge ordered her to return all the money within 30 days or face prison time, plus additional fines and probation. Stephen and Mom tried to appeal immediately, but it was denied in like 2 days. The appeals judge didn't even want to hear the case, said the evidence was overwhelming and there was no basis for appeal. Mom started selling things to pay me back. They sold the apartment. They had bought Olivia with my money, sold one of their cars. Mom took out a loan against her house. It was a complete disaster for them. And you know what? I didn't feel a single bit of pity. She had made the decision to rob me. Now she had to live with the consequences. One afternoon, Olivia showed up at my apartment. I don't know how she got my address, but there she was, crying at my door, saying I had ruined her life, that because of me she had lost her apartment, that Mom and Stephen were in financial trouble, that the family was destroyed. I told her I hadn't ruined anything, that Mom had done that all by herself when she decided to rob me. Olivia yelled that I was selfish, that she was my sister, and I should have helped her willingly. I told her she wasn't my problem, that I didn't owe her anything, and that if she really was innocent like she said, then she should be angry with Mom for getting her into this situation, not with me for defending what was mine. She left crying and yelling that she hated me. Honestly, I didn't care. At 28 days, Mom managed to gather all the money, and it was deposited back into my account. $122,000 exactly, all there again, as if nothing had happened, except everything had happened. You know, you can't unsee that. I filed a restraining order against Mom and Steven. I didn't want them near me ever again. It was approved immediately given the fraud case. Now I'm under contract to buy a house. A beautiful 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood with a big yard and an office where I can work from home. Closing is in 2 weeks. Dad is going to help me move. He's super excited, says he's proud of me for standing up for what's mine and not letting them manipulate me. We're planning a housewarming party with my real friends, the people who supported me through this whole mess. Sometimes, people ask me if I regret taking Mom to court, if I feel guilty about what happened. And the answer is no, not at all. She had every opportunity to do the right thing, to be a decent mother, to treat me like her son instead of like an ATM. She chose the path she chose, and now she has to live with that. I chose to stand up for myself, chose not to be a victim, and chose to surround myself with people who truly value me. Family isn't just blood. Family is the people who are there for you when things get tough, and Mom proved a long time ago that she wasn't and would never be that person for me. So yeah, I'm at peace with my decision. I finally have my house, my future is intact, and the toxic people are out of my life. That's enough for me.